What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Now, I have alluded to this video in some prior videos you may have seen. Some things here and there, some parts, maybe parts of that, parts of this, but this is finally the video for this project. So here we have an 81 Rabbit pickup that is actually my buddy Nathan's, and he has consigned me to put a TDI in it. Now, this thing had a 1.6 turbo diesel in it. I had actually sold him that motor. He was running it a lot. He proceeded to overheat it many times. We put multiple head gaskets on it. Things were not going very well with that motor, and finally got to a point where I said, enough is enough. This thing needs to go. I'm tired of working on it. Let's make this thing actually reliable and make it something that's going to make a little bit more power and actually start and continue to run and not overheat every time you drive it. So that's why we're here today, and that is what we are doing with this AHU TDI engine we have here on the floor. So I have been putting this motor together over the last couple of weeks. Also got the transmission hooked up here. We have got the engine bay all buffed up, looking nice, all ready to go, and all prepped to put this swap into the truck. Now, before we actually go ahead and put this swap into the truck, I did film the process of putting this motor together, so I'm going to include a couple of clips in here and show you guys what I did while I was putting this motor together and all the stuff that I did off camera, basically to get this thing ready to go, because I didn't want this to be a 40-minute video for you guys. I was trying to keep it as short as I possibly could. So I'm going to put that footage in here of all the work we did on the motor. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on time lapse and put this motor into the truck, but there is one thing I want to mention before we do that. Now this motor is obviously an AHU motor, as I mentioned before, and has been converted to Mark 1 with a motor mount and all that stuff. Now there is one special thing about this motor. Now, as I mentioned in my last video, and if you aren't aware or didn't hear about it, our good friend Mike Poley has passed away, and he had a YouTube channel called the Mark 1 Rabbit Hole. And he was a big figure in the community overall on Instagram, his dog pizza. But this motor actually came from him. We at Mark 1 Madness just this year, we got a bunch of parts from him, and this AHU was in that batch of parts. So it's, kind of insignificant to many people, and obviously it was just a motor, he just got it from him, but it kind of does mean something to me that this motor is going to be going into this truck. This is my good friend here. He's helped me out a lot, and just been a really great guy to me, so I'm really happy to be able to get him something that's going to be a really nice, functioning vehicle, and it also means a little bit more that this is Poley's motor that is going to be going in here. So just wanted to mention that to you guys because obviously I've been thinking about it as I've been putting this motor together, so I'm excited to be able to be doing that. But we're going to continue on with the video. Just felt like it was necessary to include. So motor is in finally. This has been a long time coming, but this thing looks right at home in this engine bay. Very happy with it. Obviously the motor is very clean, as you guys saw in the build and put together of it. Looks really good, and I'm really glad that we went with the powder coated valve cover with the red accents. Definitely really nice with the engine bay. Now I did go ahead and just put this in. I just have the bolt in the side mounts, and I did put the front mount on it. I don't have the starter right now, so it's just got some janky bolts holding it on right now, but we have it sitting where we need it. And the reason that I have it just sitting in now is because I need to get started right away on figuring out the intercooler setup for this thing. So we're going to be putting the intercooler down here, right in there, back behind the radiator. So, and then we're going to have a pipe coming from here down to there, and then we're going to have a pipe coming from here over and down to there. This right here is actually the intercooler. I bought this over a month ago, and I still have yet to open it up. So we're going to go ahead and get it open here. Shout out to whoever on eBay packaged this intercooler up, because we had a layer of shrink wrap, cardboard, another layer of shrink wrap, another layer of cardboard, and then another layer of shrink wrap, and finally we got our intercooler. So this is a Saab 9.3 turbo intercooler. Now, this is a factory piece, obviously, to a Saab, not for Volkswagen, but this has been used before in these. It's a common thing to do, and we're going to be doing the same thing. So we're going to make this thing work in there, but my dad's done it multiple times, and a bunch of swaps he's done. Other people have done swaps with it, so I went ahead and picked this thing up. It was not too expensive. I don't really remember how much it was. I think around 150 bucks. So not really that bad for having the outlets both on the side that we need them, and it's going to be what we need. I don't know where under the sea this intercooler is from, but there is absolutely no way I mean, it's hard to tell that's even a clamp that even has a screw area, but there's no way that is coming out the traditional way. So intercooler is mocked up in here. This is figure out where we're going to have it placed. Here, we're a little special here, so excuse the, terrible handwriting and peculiar drawing. Let me explain. So right here we got our intercooler. This is the top port. This is the bottom port. Bottom port, we're going to have a 2 1/4 90 going to a stainless 90, and then that's going to connect to a 2 1/4 pipe that's going to go up to the charge pipe, which is 2 1/4 to 2 inch. And then as far as the top one, we're going to come straight off that, going to have a silicone 45 to a 2 1/4 straight piece of stainless, and then a 2 1/4 to 2 inch 45 connecting up to the intake. So this may make no sense to you guys. This makes sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead and get those parts ordered, and we're going to make stuff happen with those pieces. So I think this is going to work out, and I think it's going to look pretty sick with the stainless and the elbows with the silicone and all that stuff. So I'm going to get that stuff ordered, and then when that stuff arrives, we'll continue on with our intercooler boost piping project. So underneath the truck, we do have some work to do. Obviously, some incredibly intelligent person pushed this truck into the garage with the shifter down and turned it into a less than straight shifter. So don't know who that could have been, but so now we get to take that off and replace that. Also take a look at the revolutionary exhaust that we've got here with the top of the line ratchet strap exhaust hanger. So this is definitely something that we're going to have to address as well, because obviously yeah, that's not ideal. Definitely ahead of its time, but I don't know what time it's ahead of. Right, so we got it out, and for reference, this is what it is supposed to look like, and this is what we got. So definitely need to replace. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and put it back in here. So in the meantime of waiting for the boost tube pieces and parts to arrive, because of course Amazon is lying to me and parts are showing up some days and some parts are showing up other days. I don't even know what's going on. But in the meantime, we've done some work here. So got all the shifter linkage hooked up, and the biggest part of that whole situation, if you know anything about Mark ones, you know that this is a major pain. This is really all you got to see right here. Yep, that's first gear. It goes in there way too easy. So after about an hour of fighting with the shift linkage, I was finally able to actually make it work right, which is an utter miracle for any O2O. So that's all done and good. I'll give you guys a look underneath there then. But shifter linkage is all hooked up. Also have gotten this air filter here that we're going to be mounting up right about here, just kind of mocking some stuff up, working on coolant piping, figuring stuff out on how we're going to do that type of stuff. Got the motor mounts actually bolted in. I have a starter here that I have to finish mounting up, but I have all the motor mounts in. Just been kind of working on things here and there, just trying to do all this stuff while I'm waiting on the boost tubes to arrive and start figuring that stuff out. And just kind of, it's a big project and there's a lot to tackle, so I've just been kind of trying to tackle it as best I can and make stuff happen. All right, so I'll give you guys a look underneath here. Obviously, we have got all of our linkage hooked up here, and it's all nice and painted and good. That's about all there is to look at underneath the truck. But I'm going to be going ahead and putting oil in it, doing some other stuff here and there just to get it ready, and all the little stuff that you guys don't really care about. Going to get that stuff done. Also, right here we have our standalone wiring harness that my dad, so shout out to him, he made this for me and put all these nice tape areas for all the places that I need to put power to, need to put ground and everything like that. So that's super cool. So this is the harness that we're going to be using for this whole entire swap situation. So that's definitely going to work super good. Really glad that he was willing to do that for me, because that, having a already built harness is really the biggest difficulty in this whole entire project. And so having that whole harness, having it built that for me is perfect, because that makes things go a lot quicker and a lot smoother. So we're going to get that installed in here. We're going to get all this other stuff taken care of, and I'll update you guys here and there if there's anything interesting. But basically, with a project like this, there's kind of a lot of little things here and there that you just got to tackle one at a time. And oftentimes, as far as the terms of filming stuff, I mean, it's not the first startup or anything like that. It's just kind of boring to watch. So gonna keep going on with that, but just want to give Alrighty, so here's where we are at. It's been a little bit of work since you saw that last clip. I had a lot of stuff going on recently and haven't gotten to this thing too much, but here's where we're at. So got the fuel filter mounted up here. We ended up using the stock Passat or Mark III TDI, whichever bracket that was, and used the first, or the back stud for the old filter housing bracket, whatever, for the factory one, and we were able to mount that with using the hole and just flip the housing upside down. So we were able to make that work for the filter, and then obviously just ran the lines to the factory line and routed them up through here. Now you may be looking at this and saying, how did he do that? I'm going to show you, because those are just zip ties, and that made for a really clean look and separated those lines really nice. So basically this here, using this spare piece of hose, I can show you how we did it. So basically, you take one zip tie and wrap it around the two hoses, and then you take another zip tie and put it in a plus style pattern, and you put that around the center of the zip ties. Then when you tighten these down, you have a divider between the two hoses. Tighten that down, and there's your split. And then you end up with this right there, which in my opinion looks really clean. So just a little tip here, just a little thing we're doing with this swap to make that work. But either way, fuel lines are hooked up, filter stuff is done, got the boot for the intake, so that stuff's all taken care of. Also stripped down the body side harness here that goes in there. We actually stripped everything off of it except for the starter switch here and the reverse light plug. So that's all we got left off of there. Managed to strip that all down, and that's where we're at. Now this is the next thing. We're going to be doing a Mark V battery tray. Now I like to do this in these. It's a typical thing that I do. So we're going to be making this battery tray work here. So I'm going to go ahead and be trimming this. So I'll show you guys where the lines are, how I cut it, and how I go about making this work. Most Mark ones, either the battery tray rots out, or for some reason this one's not here. I don't know why. Maybe it rotted out. Maybe someone cut it off. I don't know. But either way, this is what we're doing. So I'm going to show you guys the lines that I cut this on, get it cut up, and then get it put in here. All right, so here are the lines we're going to be cutting it on. So basically, at this post right in front of that, we're going to go ahead and cut it there, and then cut it right in line here. And then we're also going to have to shave this out a little bit just to fit. So basically just take the grinder and kind of rough out this area it'll sit in. This is how I did it in my tan truck, and this is how we're going to do it here. All right, so the videos have been kind of chopped up a little while for a lot of the work that's been done on this truck up to this point. And that's primarily because it's kind of boring to watch. All this little stuff, me just meticulously taping stuff, you know, just making sure every little thing is good that I want. And it takes quite a while. So here's where we are now. Again, it's kind of minor changes, but we're doing it. Like, for example, wiring harness is all in now. All this is run. All is cloth taped and hooked up. Everything's the way that I want it there. We had to get it up through there. I still need to put a grommet in there. But getting the wiring kind of sorted out, dealing with just random stuff. Battery tray is now fully mounted in. So went ahead and trimmed it, as you guys can see right there. Got the battery in here. This is the battery that I used. I think this might actually be the battery it's supposed to be in a Rabbit, but relatively inexpensive and good battery. So got that, and obviously the Mark V tray. So that's in here. Just, you know, a bunch of little stuff like that. But the truck does crank. I did prime the fuel system, and now at this point I have gotten the wiring harness. It's not all like hardwired in, like all the wiring is just kind of like hooked up, but it's not all hardwired in. But got to the point where now we have ECU power. I heard the injection pump clicking, so I know that we've got power where we need it. So we're at the point now where we're actually going to be able to try to start this truck and see if it even runs. This is probably going to be the worst part of, honestly, this whole project is going to be priming the fuel system up to the injectors without getting diesel fuel over all the freshly painted parts and everything and making it a mess. So we're going to try our best here, but got towels kind of everywhere. But I'm going to go ahead and crank this thing over, and we're going to see if we get fuel coming out of those injectors. I really hope we do. All right, so it has been an absolute disaster of trying to get this thing to run. Finally got the fuel system actually primed. You can see there's fuel there. Batteries, all sorts of nonsense. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and throw you guys on the tripod. I think we're going to hear it start. So a lot has happened since the last clip that I filmed that you guys saw of me attempting to start the truck. So, needless to say, by me saying that a lot has happened in the form of the truck didn't start. So, I ended up fighting with this truck for many hours, quite a lot of time, all sorts of fuel system problems, all sorts of everything. Ultimately, ended up getting it to run. Put a clip in right here of what it sounded like, but basically ended up having a minor wiring issue that I didn't expect, and it was causing voltage dropout at the injection pump. And basically, long story short, there was a wiring issue, and we were able to get that solved. Now, I'm not going to include any really more information on that because that was a total issue on my end on this project. If you guys are ever doing this swap or anything else, it's not going to be a concern you should have. If you do, you might have a wiring harness problem. But for me, that was what's going on. So now to show you guys what we are currently dealing with. But basically, I'm working on getting all the wiring sorted out. So it's kind of a mess down here at the moment. However, just show you guys kind of what I'm going through here. So we have the book up here, and this is currently what we're working on. So as of right now, working on the coolant temp gauge. So went ahead and picked out the coolant temp gauge on the book here. We have obviously for the 82 to 84 Rabbit. So we've got that right there. Went ahead and picked that out. You go ahead and have a look at, you know, you go to the black with yellow, and then you go to the black plug down there, 10 pin 2. So then we went down here, pin 2 on the black large plug here, right there and right there. Hooked the wire in there, and just to go ahead and verify that, and got a little wire, go ahead and rub that on the ground, And there you go. Temperature gauge goes up because the temperature gauge runs off ground. That's so you can test it. So go ahead, test that out, and that's what we're doing. So that's kind of what I've been working on, and I'm going to keep working on that stuff. So again, I'm not going to include all this information because it's kind of boring for you guys to watch, and it's just really time consuming. So I'm going to go ahead, get all this wiring wrapped up, everything done inside here, and basically from there on, I should be able to show you guys most of what we're doing from there out to the end of this project. All right, so getting the wiring wrapped up on this, getting very close to having all that stuff done, but decided to take a little break from that and move on to getting the axle installed. So I'm going to show you guys something here. So obviously right here we've got the left side axle, nothing special about that, very normal, and then we've got this. So that's what it's supposed to look like. Axles are supposed to be straight, not, you know, that. So basically some very bright individual, I'm not going to say any names, Nathan, but person who owns this truck may or may not have pushed it down a driveway with the axles flopping down and kind of buried the axle into the drum. So no big deal, obviously, but honestly kind of impressive. So good job for that. Bending an axle. I have never actually seen that before. So those axles are not too terribly easy to bend, and obviously in a 1/6 Rabbit, you're not going to really see that too often. So definitely deserves an award on this one. But either way, we're going to go ahead, get these axles thrown in here, and then be able to move this thing around. Since it does run, we'll then be able to drive it and at least move it around. And it can come out of my shop because I actually have to get my truck in here to do a little bit of things to it for Rabbits on the Rocks, which is this weekend. So need to get it in here. Just going to go ahead, get these axles in so I can pull this thing out of here and then get my truck in here. I don't know what's going to happen here. Axles are in. We were having problems with getting the clutch adjusted properly, making that all work. But I think I got it right. I think it's working. So you guys know just about as much as I do if this thing's even going to move. So I'm really hoping it does. So it's probably going to start hard because I don't think I have glow plugs right now. I am so happy to say that. You guys have absolutely no clue how big of a relief that is to drive this thing from right here to right there. So that is just absolutely fantastic. Couldn't be happier. All right, so last clip you guys saw, we got this thing finally driving and moving under its own power. Now, today I've been working on getting some stuff done under the hood, obviously. So we got our serpentine belt, or serpentine bracket on, accessory bracket, that is painted black, so got that there. And also got our alternator on, got our belt on, and that is all, you know, lined up correctly, functioning and good. I will put the picture in here of the size belt that I used. It's actually the factory, which I thought was kind of funny. It's the factory common rail serpentine belt, actually. So it's kind of weird that like the new TDI belt works for the non-AC swap that we're doing in this truck. So I thought that was kind of cool. But put that number in there. So got all the accessory drive all hooked up. And I had to do that because I am working on getting the intercooler and the radiator figured out. Now, the reason I had to do that was because I need to know the clearance that I have between the radiator support and the engine and obviously the alternator so that I can make everything work properly and make sure it's all going to work smoothly and not get into the alternator. And without the alternator here, I don't know where exactly it's going to be. So got that here. Currently have this intercooler mocked up. We're going to be mounting the intercooler with pieces of ready rod that we're going to be attaching to. I'll show you guys this whole process, but we're going to be attaching that to the bottom of the rod support. We're going to be mounting in that tab there and then that tab down there. And it's looking like where I have the intercooler set right now is probably going to work out. Gonna have to do some tweaking, but it's looking like that is probably right around where we need it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting ready to mount the intercooler first, and then we're going to go ahead and continue on with the piping, and we'll get the radiator in there at some point to make sure everything's going to fit well and all jive nicely. All right, so after a ton of trimming and a lot more effort than I really thought it was going to take, we finally are able to. We just got enough clearance here. When this is bolted up, as you guys can see there, There's just a little bit of room between the alternator, but enough that it won't be a problem. But to trim everything, we did have to trim out the radiator support, unfortunately, a little bit. We also had to trim it in there. So to do that, to make that Saab intercooler work, there is some retrofitting, and we're still going to have some things when we're going to get all this stuff, the pipes hooked up and everything like that. But just going to work with it and figuring it out. That's kind of how it goes when you're doing custom stuff. It's just kind of a lot of matter of figuring stuff out, making stuff work. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and mark where we need to drill this hole for this radiator so I don't lose my placing because I've got everything, and also mark where we're going to need to mount the intercooler. Then we're going to go ahead and actually get that mounted up. Alright, so as you guys saw, I went ahead and took this threaded rod and cut it to right around 6.5 inches. And then I went ahead and also ran a thread chaser over that, obviously. But went ahead and put it up just a little bit, just to give a good bit of threads to engage into the rib nut that we installed into the body. So we're going to go ahead and thread that in here. So now we've got that there. So now we'll go ahead and tighten that down. Alright, so now that is all tightened down and got that on there. And now we'll go ahead and bring the intercooler in here. Alright, so we are all mounted up here. Got our stud in there, got it all bolted up, and I'll show you guys here, but pretty solid overall. Now, you may wonder why I went ahead and went with basically a stud instead of a bolt, and the reasoning for that is because with the stud, I can kind of hover the intercooler in the air, and I don't have to like full-blown bury it into the rad support. It kind of is just a better overall mounting location for that. At least the way I saw it, that's the way I did it. Now, on the other side, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do the same thing because we're all the way up against there, and right below that tab where it seems like I should be able to drill through and put a bolt is the lower boost tube inlet. So what we're going to do is right there, you can see we've got this tab here. I'm going to go ahead, drill a hole into that, and make a 90-degree bracket right onto this part of the rad support and mount it on this side there. And then from there, we should be pretty solid and have everything good to go. Intercooler fully mounted. All right, so quite a lot of work later. Intercooler is finally all mounted 100%. So as you can see here, obviously you got the stud down there. You also got the bracket hooked up here. So, I mean, I'm putting a pretty good bit of force on it. This thing is not moving around, so that is perfect. That is exactly what we want. Now, I've also got the radiator, and I'll show you guys right here that it is all solid, all good to go. Takes a bit of finesse to get it in here. Definitely does not really, I'm not going to go as far as to say that this whole setup really fits, but we make it fit, and that's the name of the game. But either way, just kind of adjust it around, push that side in, this side in. All right, there we go. So there's the radiator. Now I just got to build two brackets, one coming up off of here to there, and another one coming off here to there. And I'm also going to be putting an aluminum strip over across here, just like I have in my tan truck. So I'm going to go ahead and make the brackets that it can accommodate putting that on there. But that's going to be the next step. From there, the fan, and then just have to hook up the cooling lines, and then the cooling system is done. And then we're going to get on to building the boost tubes. We made a little bit more progress here. We got our fan in here with freshly painted here. We also got the radiator fully installed, and we also made our aluminum plate over the top. I think it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with it. Ended up just making a bracket here and then tagging it into the radiator bracket over here, and everything is working out well. Now the lower coolant hose is the stock coolant hose. You can see down there, just the stock lower rabbit hose. The upper hose is also a stock upper rabbit hose, but we just have this connection piece in here just to extend it a little bit because we need a little bit extra room to make it all work out. So that's where we're at now. Currently working on getting the boost tubes taken care of. So I already got a 90 coming off there, and basically just gonna work some magic and make all this happen. That is basically the plan. So it's gonna be kind of hard for me to film all that for you guys, but I'm gonna try my best to give you guys little bits here and there, but basically it's a lot of just cutting and making stuff fit and making it all work. So once it's all done, you guys will see exactly what I did. I can give you exact measurements, everything like that. But as of right now, just kind of figuring it out because this is a custom system. So we're kind of just doing the custom stuff and just making it work, figuring out what we got to do to make it happen. So here's where we're at. Last night I was working on the boost tubes and I was able to get this boost tube pretty much done and figured out. I'm currently working on the other one. I kind of got distracted a little bit and started working on the cooling system, but went ahead and got our coolant tank mounted up here. So I'll show you guys how I did that. Basically, I just trimmed these ends off here, picked this coolant bottle up off Amazon and trimmed the ends off and just slid it down into the factory slider. And then I put a 90-degree PEX style fitting and just connected that to the flange that came off of the coolant tank and just hooked that to the hose and hooked it over the bypass pipe. And then the top one, routed that around and got it to the coolant flange on the front of the head for that overflow. So basically there is that situation, and we've now got our cooling system 100% plumbed up. And I'm gonna go ahead, throw some coolant in it now and see, not necessarily if, but where it leaks, because it probably will. All right, you guys are about to see this in real time, so we'll see if and where it leaks. Oh man, I'm already spilling it. Get something to put around this because I can't handle pouring something. This is why I can't have nice things, because I just make a mess of it all the time. It doesn't matter how nice you make things look, still manage to dump coolant, oil, whatever. It's just how it goes. Alrighty. I don't think it's leaking yet. We'll see. So we did, of course, get a coolant leak. Now I've yet to actually fix it, but I've honestly just moved on to something else because where it is leaking from is absolutely infuriating. So basically, see, we got the pan under here, and it's coming from under the water pump. As you can see, I'm pretty sure it's the sealing surface where the water pump housing meets the block, which makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever because that housing's new, the seal's new, the block's clean. I don't know what's going on, so we're gonna have to figure that out, but I'm gonna have to take the alternator bracket back off, the alternator back off. Pretty much a royal pain in the butt, and I don't really want to deal with it. So we're just gonna move on to something else because there's already a lot of things to do to this, and I don't have to dwell on one thing. So currently working on the boost tubes. I have gotten them figured out for the most part. Currently working on bead rolling them. Now, I know in my other videos I have talked about this, but I'm going to put it in this video too, because maybe some of you guys see in this video haven't seen my other videos. But as you can see right there, obviously, that's a bead roll for a boost tube. So when you tighten this down, it doesn't allow the boost tube to slip off under high pressure. So basically, this tool here is what allows us to do that and make factory style beads with a tool from Amazon that cost me around $40. I'll put the picture in here where I got it. But basically, this tool is really cool and it allows us to bead roll. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how you use this. Like I said, I showed it in my other videos, but just in case you guys didn't see those, I'm gonna show it in this one too. All right, so this process is actually really easy. Basically, here we have our one boost tube here, obviously in the end, no bead whatsoever. So you're gonna wanna go ahead and put this over the small die, push that on the whole way, and then go ahead and tighten this knob down here, about as tight as you can go. The stainless is a bit hard to bead roll because it is quite strong, so you have to give it a couple runs around. Basically, then you're just gonna take this. This is the handle that it comes with. If I can get it out here. It comes with this, but honestly, it's easier to just use the ratchet and the little, whatever size this is, 9/32. So put that on there, just turn this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this. And you're going to want to make sure you hold this up against her as close as you can so that it rolls evenly. But go ahead and turn this around. And then there you go. Then we'll go ahead and loosen this down. And there you have it. As you can see here, we got this nice bead roll on here. See it down in the center. There you go. I'm going to go over that one more time just to make it a little bit more pronounced. But all in all, there you go. That's how you use this tool, and that's how I'm getting the beads rolled on the So as you guys saw, boost tubes are pretty much all done. I did make some altercations since the last videos I filmed, we did have to put this pipe in here because we need this sensor, and there's a little nipple bung down there for a boost reference. So we needed those. So I have this tube. I know this is janky and junk. I have the actual proper connector coming, so that will be black silicone like everything else. So like I said, that's on the way here. So that's just kind of janky at the moment because the goal is to drive this truck tomorrow. So I'm really hoping that I can pull it together to get this thing 100%. We are so close. We've currently got the coolant leak to fix, exhaust stuff to deal with, some runnability stuff, and any odds and ends I didn't catch. Also, of course, the starter shot. So the starter was working fine. I went to go start it to run it for the first time with boost, and the starter's just clicking. So need to get it started. The starter had been acting weird, but now it finally gave up the ghost. So need one of those. But just another thing to add to the list. But actually, speaking of the list, there it is. This is currently what we are working with. I need to add starter right there. But other than that, we're getting there. We're pretty close. That's not that much left. So I'm going to go ahead and keep chugging along at what I've been doing. Like I said, the boost tube stuff is pretty much done at this point. I'm now going to go ahead and start working on building the downpipe, which it's not going to be pretty, but it's going to work. Honestly, this is just he's probably going to actually upgrade it to a proper size and a full nicer system. So honestly, this is just to get it down the road. We're just getting it together. And initially when him and I had talked about it, we were just going to not really do much for about the exhaust, but I wanted to have something on it. So I've got some scrap pieces over here that I picked up off of a car that I took apart to put an upgraded exhaust on. So we have that there. And then we also have these pieces over here that we're going to chop up and build a downpipe. So that's what I'm going to be working on. So I'm going to throw some time lapse on some of that work I'm doing. And hopefully by the next time I talk to you guys, I have a downpipe built. All right, so you guys saw the truck ran and drove under its own power. We are now working on getting the downpipe sorted out. So I have this thing, don't worry, this is not the final product at all. I have this thing roughly tacked into place. As far as how I want it to work in the truck, it actually turned out really weird how you have to wrap that thing around to make it work, but here's what we got. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld all these joints together, get this thing all solid and all taken care of, and we'll throw this on and move on with the rest of the exhaust system on it. All right, here's what we got so far. I got this welded up for the first time. And don't dog on my welds too bad. This is a flux core welder I bought from Harbor Freight for 140 bucks. So not too terrible overall, but we're gonna go ahead and grind this down, see how I did, and see if we gotta go back over anything or if I missed any areas. But all in all, went pretty good. All right, so downpipe is all done and all painted. As you guys saw, I shot a quick coat of header paint on here just so that it didn't fully rust out, but it's not perfect, but definitely gonna do the job and it'll work out. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this thing into the truck, and then we're gonna continue on with making the rest of the exhaust system go onto here and then connect it to the bed stack, which I have mixed feelings about that. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we have now got our whole exhaust on. So all the way from the downpipe, got the flex on, and we have a coupler here so that the downpipe can be removed from the rest of the exhaust system. We've also got a little bracket coming off here that I just hooked onto there and then hooked onto the factory location. So a little bracket there, then coming along down here, got a bracket mounted there that hooks to a hook, and then a bracket on the back side, and then up here up to our wonderful amazing smokestack, which again I have mixed feelings about. But either way, this isn't perfect, but coming off of that menagerie that was on it before, we are definitely far ahead of where we were, and this is gonna work. Again, it's not perfect, I'm well aware of that. It's not meant to be. It was just meant to be an upgrade and a better exhaust than what we had, and now we've got something that's not gonna fall off. It's not gonna be an issue, so it'll be solid until he decides, if he does, to upgrade to a little bit better system. But as of right now, this is what we built and it's gonna work. I literally cannot make this up if I tried. You guys might think that this misfortune is fake, but it's not, I promise. Yeah, literally brand new out of the box Bosch starter junk. So I guess now I'll take this one and go put it over here with these two, and now I get to go find starter number 4. As expected, the wall of starters was fruitful, and we found another one. So now if this one doesn't work, I don't know. What do you say? We take all 4 starters and throw them all through the windshield of the truck, maybe? I don't know. That's kind of my next thought here if this doesn't work out. If this one's bad, like I said, I'm going to take it and I'm going to take the other 3 and all 4 of them. I'm going to put them right there. So, here we go. It also said don't strike with a hammer on that new starter. But I kind of want to strike it with a hammer because it doesn't work. Either way, we have now acquired another starter, this one here. Hopefully this one's the charm and this one works. We're going to see. I'm going to go ahead and throw it in, and it's going to work. It better. All right, this better work or else. Alright, gonna go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a cold start here, test out the new exhaust. It's probably gonna be pretty gnarly because we have no glow plugs right now, so let's see what happens. But all right, so we had to pull the valve cover off to fix the valve cover gasket because, of course, the new one that I had is leaking, whatever. But just going and looking here after about, I'd say maybe a half an hour runtime this thing has seen so far. And everything is looking good. The ARP studs, everything seems good there on the cam and everything like that. So that's definitely good to see. Not that I heard or expected to see anything weird, but nice to know now for sure that nothing is going wrong. There's no metal. There's no anything concerning that we should be worried about. And as I promised you guys a few days ago, this janky mess that I had going on, that's no longer. We got our silicone tube here, which is a 2-inch or 2 1/4 down to the 1 7/8 or 2 inches that's on the turbo. So nice little turn down elbow. It looks good, and overall definitely makes. I honestly I had the aluminum pipe when I was going to weld the bung in there, which actually, that whole situation was quite interesting because I bought a bung from S&P that was for the temperature sensor here, or boost air sensor, I don't know what it is. But basically, it's a sensor that you need for the swap. And I bought a bung that S&P sells, and I think someone else, that I picked up, and I was going to TIG weld it into an aluminum pipe, the factory aluminum AHU pipe that comes up off the turbocharger. Well, long story short, I don't know how to TIG weld at all. I thought, oh, I'll sit down, I'll just lock in. We got this machine over here that I've used one time since I got it. Right there. Good machine, great machine, just user error 100%. I don't know what I'm doing. I got very frustrated with it. It was like 2 hours of just trying to get something to work, just practicing on a new aluminum and just not working. So ultimately I ended up having to come up with another solution and use the factory AHU pipe with the sensor and the boost reference already in it, and basically had to make that work. So a little bit of a detour, so to speak, but we're able to get it figured out. And honestly, like I said, I kind of like the silicone elbow better anyway, so that's not really a problem. But all in all, that's going to be about the finished look under the hood here for the most part. We got to get the battery tray back on, but it turned out really, really good. Honestly, way better than I was expecting. It's definitely very good, very happy with it. But I'm going to go ahead and get some wiring stuff taken care of in there. I got to get the N75 hooked up. I got to deal with the battery box. I can deal with a couple other things here and there, and also we have to do transmission service, so I have a leak that I have to fix, and then we have to empty that out, and then I've got some gear oil over here that we're going to go ahead and throw in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get that stuff taken care of, then we'll go ahead and get the transmission serviced, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to be able to actually take this thing out and drive it for a little bit. Alrighty, so we are now down underneath the truck here, and we're going to go ahead and drain out the transmission fluid. So, go ahead. First off, drain plug, or the fill plug is over on this side. You always want to make sure you take the fill plug out before you do the drain plug, because if you can't get the fill plug out, then you have no way of refilling your transmission after you've emptied it. Alright, fill plug is out, so now I'm going to go ahead and take the drain out. It's right there. seems to get really tight, but got it. Get that loose. There we go. All right, so we got the drain plug back in. Now here is our fluid. We got some 75/90 gear oil, and we just got a tube hooked up to the top of this, and we're gonna go ahead and fill the transmission up here. The time has finally come. Everything is all back together, and it is finally time to go out on the first official real test drive of the truck. I have not had this thing on the road. I've only driven it around our property, so we're going to go take it out right now. It is like 10:30, so it's dark, so hopefully you guys can see, but I'm so stoked to finally be moving this thing, and I'm interested to see how it does. I'm really hoping it does okay. All right, we're out here. It's rocking and rolling. It's not making proper power 100%. Definitely got some boost issues. This alignment is absolutely awful in this thing, though, so it's really hard to drive, and it's kind of all over the road. But we are rocking and rolling, and I'm not noticing too many issues. Definitely got to get the laptop hooked up to it and see what's going on. But like I said, we're cruising. Even though this thing isn't running 100% right, it's running and driving pretty darn good. And honestly, this is the most rewarding part, is when you actually get to drive something that you fully built, because I have put a lot of effort, a lot of time into this truck, and have it finally rolling down the road is honestly an awesome feeling. We've got countless hours in this thing, tons of time, tons of parts, all sorts of stuff, and we're out here rocking and rolling. Doing a little bit more cruising, had to stop and take a look at a couple of things. We had a fuel leak because someone allegedly maybe didn't tighten one of the injector lines, and so that was leaking. So I got that tightened up, and also I just wanted to verify the coolant was working, because our temp gauge is a little bit hotter. Some of these are like that though. The temp gauge just tends to run a little hotter, so not a problem. I just wanted to make sure the fan was coming on, which it was, so everything is looking all good so far. I don't know how many days it's been since the last clip that I filmed, but what I do know is we've had a lot of highs and a lot of lows with the truck since that last clip was filmed. So basically you guys saw the first test drive with this truck and that I was out driving around. Now I've been driving this thing around for about a week. It's been since I filmed the last clip, and we've had a lot of things go really good, and we've had a couple of things that were a bit of an issue. So the biggest thing really with it was that I had bad injectors in it. So the injectors were clogged up or something. I'm not quite sure what was going on with them. Basically, it was causing a strange misfire and just really poor running condition overall, like basically slower than this thing used to be. So kind of had to get that sorted out. So went ahead and put, which injectors don't typically fail. We don't usually see that many issues with them. But with the motor that I didn't know anything about, and one that was also sitting for quite a lot of time, I found it somewhat chance to be good, and I've had this happen before, that I've had this similar running condition and I had that issue. So went ahead and put a set of injectors in it, and that brought it back to life a ton. We also went ahead and put a stage 2 tune on it, and that really bumped it up a ton, as this thing now really likes to blow tires off in first gear and second gear, and if you're in the rain, third gear. So it is pretty rowdy for a TDI that came with 90 horsepower. Not really that great. Now with the tune, I will say the clutch is slipping a little bit in fifth gear, so definitely the tune is a little bit heavy for the configuration we have. So I definitely told Nathan, and I know again you're watching this, but definitely have to take it easy in fifth gear, because we don't want to be smoking the clutch. And until we get the opportunity to upgrade to a better transmission, as of right now, we definitely just want to keep it together, keep it going. So runs really good. Things are really good in that regard. Other than that, I haven't really had anything happen with it. I've just kind of been driving. I probably put about 100 miles on it, a couple hours of driving, and it's done really good. Now, the one other thing that happened was the truck left me sit on the side of the road. Now, this was really stupid, and it was really my fault, but basically, there was a wire that came undone on a relay. I should have checked it, I should have thought, and this thing left me sit. It was a couple hours, managed to limp it home, got it back after doing a bunch of jumpering and strange things, and we were able to make it work, got it home, and then I was just pulled it in the shop tonight, and I was able to figure out what happened, and basically, this wire just came loose, and that's where the issue is. Now this nifty gadget right here is what we call an alter gauge, and I have a full video on my channel all about this thing in my Rabbit truck. So if you want to see that, go. If you want to see more details on this exact scanner, I'm not going to cover it a lot in this video because I have a whole video dedicated to it. Basically, it's an OBD2 interface that reads a lot of the engine things that you want to know. So we're going to be going ahead and installing that. And this is the precise reason why when I build a swap car or build a car for someone else or even myself, a ton of test driving and really testing goes into it before I give it back or call it done. Because that wiring issue, like I said, I have driven this truck a combined total of probably 100 miles and a couple of hours of driving in all sorts of different conditions and did not have a shadow of an issue in the regard of it shutting off, and then just randomly had that issue. So it's really important to fully test this stuff out and make sure that you put it through all conditions and really make sure that it's going to be solid and not just give it back right after it was done, because then we're just going to be chasing our tail on what's going on and why it was fine when it could have been fully prevented if would have just been tested 100% and put as much time in, within reason, as possible in test driving and making sure everything is solid. So that is definitely important and why I like to fully test stuff out before I really commit to it being done and commit to it really going home if it's someone else's vehicle. All right, so the alter gauge is just a stick-on gauge here. So when I cleared it off, we're going to be putting it up on here. So we're just going to go ahead and stick it down right about there. And just push down, and that's about as simple as that install goes. And we're just going to plug this into our OBD2 port, and then that's going to read us all of our stuff. I'll give you guys a little bit of video here peeling this off. Oh yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, get this plugged in, and get this all hooked up. Once again, if you want to know more about this thing, go check out my other video I have fully devoted to the alter gauge. Setting this thing up, but that is this is very ominous. Injury or death. So definitely don't touch your alter gauge while you're driving, or you may die, I guess. So alter gauge is all installed. It's really an easy process, but got it hooked up here. Now the one thing, this one has a boost pressure option. The one in my 1.8T truck does not. For some reason, either this is an updated version of the alter gauge or my truck just doesn't have provision for it for some reason or another. Either way, we got that added in there. Otherwise, I have everything I usually have. I do want to add a voltage for right down here. But other than that, we have everything that we're going to want here. So this is all good to go, and alter gauge is now installed. Good morning. We are here again working on the truck, obviously, but this morning I was going to go ahead and do a quick little string alignment on this thing, just get it a little bit better. It's not going to be perfect. It was really bad before, and the idea was really just get to stop dodging all over the road when you're driving and just being really dumb. Well, I'll insert the clip right here. But I found out what the problem was. So basically, as you guys are clearly seeing, the steering rack has a ton of play in it. It's internally worn out, and that means that this thing is going to be needing a steering rack for sure. So that's kind of unfortunate because that job kind of sucks, and it would have been a lot easier when I had the motor out. But either way, I didn't think to check it. I don't know, it's just kind of one of those things that you're not really gonna notice till you drive it unless you really go through and thoroughly inspect all the stuff. And obviously we were doing a swap, not a full-blown restoration on this truck, so didn't think of it. But either way, gonna have to go ahead and throw a steering rack in it now. So minor setback, but we'll get it taken care of. All right, so we're setting up to get this new duckbill thrown on here, and went ahead. All these are going to be different, so it really depends on the amount of damage that they have. This one is pretty wiped out underneath here. It's very bent up and messed up. So I just kind of tried to mark it as best I can. We got a gigantic probably winch cord den or something. I don't even know. This thing is pretty wasted under here. But basically, I went ahead and tried to mark out some marks where I'm going to be able to put the rib nuts to be able to bolt this thing on here. So, like, again, pretty much anyone's going to be different to mount one of these things, and all these aftermarket ones have different mounting locations. So, really just going to depend on the one that you have if you put one of these on. But we're going to go ahead and drill those holes out and then put some rib nuts in there, and then we'll be able to bolt it on and off. And if it ever needs to be removed, to be towed or anything like that, it's just rib nuts. It's super easy. Just take it off and remove it. Just like that, duckbill is installed and turned out pretty good. I do got to deal with a couple of areas on it, but overall, looks pretty good, and I got it on here. Alrighty, so get a good look at this thing in the condition it's in now, because we're going to go ahead and drop it off with my buddy Hunter. He's going to take care of these wheels. We're going to get this thing all shined up, get it looking pretty, take care of all this mess that's on here. You know, he's going to do a great job. So I'm going to go ahead and go drop it off, and then it's only a couple minutes away from my house. And then I will see you guys when we have it back. All right, so truck is obviously up in the air and taken apart, and we are dealing with the steering rack issue. So I've got a replacement rack here that does not have 40 million inches of play in it, so that's solid. Once again, here's a look at what we're dealing with. Yeah, that's not what you're gonna want. That's not what you're gonna want. This truck very well may have been trying to kill me, so I'm taking apart the old rack from the truck, and we had this, obviously. That's where our whole entire issue was. Go to take the end off. Yeah, it's not even tight. It's loose. So, you know, that could have flown off. That was, I don't know, this whole steering rack is definitely having issues. And like I said, I don't know if it was trying to kill me or what, but definitely glad we're going to be putting in a new rack. That is not, well, it's not a new rack, but it's a replacement rack that is going to definitely make things better for this thing. All right, so pretty sure everyone and their mother knows this if you know anything about Mark 1s at this point, but if you put a hose clamp, if you have your steering column bearings falling apart, you can put a hose clamp to hold the bearings up from coming down, and that will hold your steering column together, and then you won't have a ton of play when you try to move your steering wheel anymore. So this one used to have a ton of play. It's now all gone. So that's just something, like I said, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that at this point, but if someone doesn't, there's your idea. So just put a hose clamp on there. It'll hold the bearing back up, and then it won't come out, and your steering won't have play in it. All right, so we're out on a little bit of a test drive here, and this thing handles like 4 million times better. Doesn't feel like it's gonna drag me all over the road anymore. There's just so many reasons why this is so much better. So it still needs a bit of some alignment adjustments made, but all in all, it is feeling quite a bit better. Also, for some reason, we're having trouble getting into fourth gear, so it's getting into something. So we had to do a little third to fifth maneuver there, but overall, we're rock and rolling. All right, so we're back from our test drive, and as I told you guys, this thing is driving so much better. Now, we are going to go ahead and do a quick little string alignment on here just to try to get it a little bit more dialed in, a little bit better. So I just take two stationary objects. I have 2 jack stands and then 2 gas cans on the other side. As you can see on this side, I've got it lined up that everything is nice and straight. Now, on the other side, I have it here. Now, let me explain to you guys how you do this actually real quick. So basically, you go to the back wheel, you go ahead and you line your string up with the front lip and the back lip. This isn't touching because it's so far out in the front, but you're going to want to make it touch the edge of the lips and then get out to here. So now we can see that gap right there. That's what we don't want. That means that the wheel is kicked out in the back, which means that we need to pull the tie rod inward to pull the wheel inward and get it driving a little bit more true. This will make it drive better. This won't make it pull as much, and it'll just overall make it handle better. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead, jack this up, pull that tie rod in, and get this thing dialed in. And then we should be pretty good to go. Obviously, it should still be professionally aligned at some point, but that'll get us really close and exponentially better, as this thing already is, for the steering issues, and obviously this thing wasn't even here for steering, so we just need to get it back to an acceptable amount that we can drive. All right, so this took a little bit of a turn. Obviously, as you can see here, there's some parts missing from the engine, and that's because they are on my workbench. Now, we have a certain modification to put on the end of these that Joe Biden would not be a fan of, and it's going to make it do some things, so we're going to go ahead and get those installed on here, put them on there, and then make this thing do stuff. So I'm going to install those. You can probably guess what I'm talking about, but it makes more come out of the back, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to go ahead and get those installed.
Perfect.
All right, I got you guys up on the tripod here. We got all the injectors and the new tips in. Now, gonna go ahead and see if this will even start. I don't know if this is even gonna run with these tips, as it's not tuned at the moment. So we'll see what happens. It's running. Sounds pretty healthy too. Alright, so we got some new issues here. So the truck is idling perfectly fine right now. As you can see, the battery's light's on because I just started it, and we have 12.38 volts. Now watch when I rev it. Volts are way high because we're seeing this thing skyrocketing all over the place. I saw as high as 15 volts, and this thing is just moving all over the place, and the battery light is also flickering. So I believe this alternator is overcharging, and that is why we get rough running when we have the alternator charging. Yeah. All right, so this thing's really easy to pull out. So I got our culprit out here. I'm gonna go ahead and throw a replacement one in here, and hopefully that solves our issue. All right, that took way longer than it should have, and way too many alternators, but finally got one in here. No more squeaking. Idling great. Battery lights off. And this thing, once it gets itself figured out, tells us the voltage. But overall, I think we got it solid and solved, which is great because I've been fighting with this thing for about 2 hours. I put about 4 alternators on it because I kept getting ones that were bad. Finally, we got one that was not doing something weird. One of them was trying to melt out. It was bad. But here you can see 13.6, which is what we want to see. So everything's all good to go. Alrighty, back home we go. Finally. It is also Thanksgiving today, so definitely would much rather be at home instead of being stuck at work for 2 hours trying to fix this truck, but got it done now, so that's all that matters. For a diesel, this thing isn't too slow either. TDI as well. Rocks and rolls. Here, and here's the finished product. So truck is all completed, everything is all done, and honestly turned out absolutely amazing, to say the least. This is definitely a relief to have this thing done. It's been a very long time coming, a very long project to get this thing done, but we managed to get it all completed. Certainly couldn't be happier with how everything came out under the hood here, and how it all just flowed really well and everything worked out fantastic. So I'm so happy that it worked out. I actually parked it next to mine because it's very similar to the way that I had built this one. If you notice the way that the boost tubes are, the way that I tried to stay with a linear color pattern, we kind of did the same thing over here with this one. We also went ahead and did the exact same Mark V battery box, so have that there, and also the covers off of this one, but we have this one here as well. Same with the coolant tank. We have the coolant tank on this one, and also went ahead, coolant tank on that one, same with the black silicone with the stainless piping. Did the exact same thing on mine. So definitely have a lot of similarities between the two of these things, and that's why honestly I chose to park them next to each other to film this final clip for you guys, because definitely showcases the way that I tend to build things, and definitely very linear kind of thought process when I make this stuff happen, and definitely takes a long time, but in my opinion definitely well worth it. Now there's nothing special about this interior, but we did end up getting it all back together, all good to go. No wires hanging down or anything like that. It's all taken care of. Got the alter gauge in there, obviously, as we've gone over before. Additionally, we also do have bed stack that we got put back in here. Also went ahead and bed lined this bed, made it look a little bit better. It's not perfect, but it was all falling off and it looked really terrible. So went ahead and took care of that. Honestly, I think that was well worth it. And also, I believe I mentioned it before, but honestly, I've lost track of things at this point in this video. But we have also gone ahead and gotten this thing detailed. So my buddy Hunter went ahead and got this whole entire truck buffed out. Super nice, got it all detailed. Now I have driven it quite a bit since he did it, but as you guys can see there, it is very, very nice paint. So got that all cleaned up, turned out very, very nice. So definitely great job for him. If you need detailing work done, hit him up. But overall turned out super good, and honestly, like I said before, this truck has turned out very nice. And quite honestly, parking these two next to each other, definitely I wouldn't be mad if both of these were sitting in my driveway. But either way, like I said, we're going to be taking this thing home here soon, and that is pretty much going to be a wrap on this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I tried to kind of break it up as best as I could and try to give you guys the most interesting parts of the swap. Obviously, I've had this truck for over 2 months, and this swap has been pretty much going on every single day in those 2 months. I've been working on all sorts of things, and I tried to bring you guys the most interesting stuff that I could, but all in all, it's kind of hard to gauge what is interesting and what isn't. And with a project like this, to film everything on it would be a 4-hour video for you guys. I don't even know how long this video is going to turn out to be, but what I do know is that we got it all completed and it looks good. Alrighty guys, so the truck is successfully dropped off and everything is all good to go. Went on a pretty decently long drive going to drop it off, going out test driving it around, and then he brought me back home and drove me back to his house. So truck definitely got a good bit of drive time in today, and it's performing flawlessly. So definitely having some clutch issues as mentioned before, but that's nothing we didn't expect based on the injectors we put in it and tuning and stuff. It makes more power than the clutch can handle, and we were kind of expecting that. So that's going to have to be something we're going to have to deal with in the future, but as of right now, as long as you keep it, you know, relatively tame in the higher gears, pretty good. But either way, the truck turned out amazing. I'm so happy. It's such a big relief for this thing to be finally done and fully functional and turned out exactly as I was hoping. And obviously Nathan is very happy with it as well, which is exactly what we wanted to. As you can see in the video, when he pulled away from the house, it was a lot of that in the test drive, and that's exactly what it was built for. So super happy that everything's working out and that he's happy with the project, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what matters. But either way, that's going to be a wrap on this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know that this was a really long video, so hopefully it either gave you guys something entertaining to watch or there was some informative information. I know I covered a lot of stuff on the AHU swap. And if you have any questions about the AHU swap or how I did anything, feel free to message me and I'll be happy to try to help you guys out if I can. But in any case, I appreciate you all for watching, and once again, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Now, obviously, we have a lot more things coming for the month of December, and I cannot wait for all those things. That's definitely going to be a big surprise for you guys as to what we have planned. But we've got a lot of parts to install and a lot of videos we're going to be making in the month of December. So that's going to be super cool, super excited for that. And if you guys have any swap projects that you'd potentially like me to do, feel free to hit me up and I can see if we can work something out. Typically, I do a lot of projects for my own stuff, but I'm more than happy to do work for other people. And as you guys can see, my work is typically similar. Obviously with my truck and this truck I built, that's typically how I do things. So like I said, if you guys are looking for any work that you need to get done swap-wise, feel free to message me and I can see if I can either help you out with the question that you're having or if you need me to build something, once again, see if we can work something out. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found some part of it entertaining or informative, and hope that you guys enjoyed. With that, I'm out. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.